that's reputation in marketing or reputation management, because I will probably flip between the two phrases. And welcome, Tom. Good to
Greetings.
have you here.
Good to be here.
I love talking about reputation management, but really, I mean, really, they're related because reputation management is managing, whether you're talking about reputation in marketing, reputation in your marriage, reputation in your life, reputation in business, reputation in whatever you want to fill that blank with as far as words. It's reputation. But I like your succinct answers that you gave in the X chat. Like, what was the one? It was, would you use like 3 words or
Well, you
something? It
said,
was,
what happens if you don't manage your reputation? And I said, you go out of business.
yeah, there you go. I guess you
It's,
go out of, yeah, it's 5 words. Okay. That answers the question. Yes. I can't help but, and you know what I'm thinking, and I know it's not fair to anyone watching this later because I'm not going to divulge that. That would be impolite. But I'm thinking of a certain business that I would say is not managing their reputation in a way that is advantageous. And I think they're headed towards that. What you just said, they're not going to be in business.
you
And
might
maybe,
consider them a bit flighty in
okay,
their approach, right?
right.
I mean, it'd be better if they were more grounded in their quality of their product. Are we talking about the same company?
I think so. The one I was talking about earlier that I wrote DM after DM that was like on and on and on and on and on. It was kind.
No, I'm
Yeah. They.
thinking. I'm thinking of a major manufacturer.
Oh. Now I'm trying to think who you're talking about. Got me curious, but no, I'm
But
thinking
let's
about.
just say their doors land before their airplanes do.
Ooh, that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing at all. I was thinking of a particular entity, and it's easy to think about reputation management when you can picture, or anything for that matter. You think of someone who's not doing something well. You can think of all the things wrong with them. But this particular entity, I went looking for them just out of curiosity on a list of all of the companies doing that particular thing, and I think I clicked on 60 pages of 20. So we're talking like 120 companies in one particular city. So this isn't 120 globally. This is 120 in a city. And I couldn't find them until I got to 120. And I thought, guys, that's not very good. Somebody's not handling at least your profile listing or something. This was on a major, it'd be like, I don't know, going to a cupcake site and saying, hey, let's get listed for being the best cupcakes, and you're number 120. No, that's not great. Reputation for making cupcakes. So, any thoughts on I don't know, tips for reputation in marketing? Maybe get listed for making cupcakes, but
Well, it's a tough road to follow because you can do all the right things and have one unfortunate situation that hits the news so that everybody hears about the bad thing, but they don't hear about the good things. And your reputation can be ruined for no direct fault of your own. You think of where, and, this is sad and tragic, but certain businesses have had trouble with disgruntled ex-employees coming back with a gun. And like, you never heard of these companies until this.
right,
And now,
right,
they're a horrible company and they must not treat their employees right because look what this one did. And that's completely unfair. But that's the nature of reputations. Very often they are completely unfair. In fact, even good reputations can be completely unwarranted. They just have a good PR department that promotes all the good stuff as much as they can. But still, it's I hate to use the term crapshoot, but that's kind of what it is sometimes. Now, I think in the chat I mentioned that I can't expect everybody to love me. It'd be great if they did, but they don't, and I accept that. But what I learned early on was you don't go out of your way to feed that beast. You do everything you can to build yourself a good reputation, to have integrity, to be a good communicator, good character, be competent in your field, have compassion for other people and be committed to your goals and what you want to do. Those 5 C's should be familiar to you. But so much of what I do is centered around that kind of thinking, because the more I've thought about it, the more I go, that's a gem. That's really something there that if you pay attention to those things, again, won't be perfect. You'll stub your toe. People will stub your toe for them. And then you have to deal with those things. But overall, don't feed that beast. Don't go out of your way to do something bad. This is getting close to prom season. And traditionally, I guess maybe I ought to think about doing that soon, because May is when I used to do this. But I drafted up something called a driving contract. And it's between a parent and child, new driver and the child, and they agree that they're going to lay out some ground rules for the child's driving. And the point behind the whole thing is that you can make a lot of bad choices, but it's never too late to start making good ones.
I like that.
And so it talked about, if you are in a car with someone who should not be driving, get out. Call us. And by the way, I started doing this before cell phones were popular, but call us. We will arrange to get you home and not be punished. If you're going to be late, call us, let us know. It's a series of like 6 or 8 things that it's just the agreement that if you or the person that's driving is incapacitated, we would rather have you home safely than not at all. So no matter what bad decisions you made to get into that situation,
you
stop.
Pass.
make a good decision, and we'll move on from there. And so it's just a little driving contract. I used to distribute it every May around prom season, because that's when some very tragic accidents tend to happen.
That's excellent. I love that.
So I'm gonna have to revive that, dig it out of my files and do it. But again, back to the point of your reputation. And so you could make a lot of bad decisions, but when you stop making the bad ones and start making good ones, then you can turn that reputation around, or at least stop feeding that beast, and hopefully move in a direction where people will begin to say good things about you. And that's really one of the fundamental underpinnings of a reputation. When asked, what do people say?
By the way, your content that reminded me of having a good like I have a good reputation with my husband, that I tell the truth. I don't always necessarily make good decisions, but I do tell the truth about what decisions I made. And what was it? I'd gone to in fact, we were talking about companies, and I can say this company is no longer in business, and that's a whole nother story for another time that would take a long time to describe. But it was a trading company, and going to a bar for supposedly a meeting was mandatory. I didn't want to go. I wanted to go home to my husband, my kids. I mean, I already worked, 15-hour shift. Why do I want to go to a bar and hang out with the owner and whoever else and whatever for a meeting that really I knew wasn't going to be really a business meeting, but whatever. I didn't want to lose my job either. So I went. I didn't drink. I ordered Diet Coke. That's it. That is it. But somehow, when I got in the car to go home, I wasn't thinking clearly. But the problem is, I wasn't thinking clearly enough to know that I wasn't thinking clearly. So I called my husband like I always did, to just say, well, honey, I'm on my way home. And he's like, Deb, there's something wrong with you. I'm like, I don't know. There's something wrong. So I'm like driving. I never, by the way, I have a zero tolerance for driving drunk. I would never, ever, ever drive drunk. But I'm going in circle. I'm driving home, and I'm literally going in circles. Like I don't know how to get home. That's not usual for me. I'm an excellent driver. I've never gotten a ticket, anything. He's like, Deb, I don't know where you are, but just pull over. And I'm like, I don't know how to pull over. Okay, that's probably a good sign that something's wrong. So he's like, wherever you are, just stop. So I just stopped, and somehow, I'm not sure how, maybe by an act of God, he found me somewhere in Los Angeles. We just left the car there, and he drove me home. We don't even think it was alcohol. We think it was, this guy had a lot of money. It was probably Coke. I don't know, whatever. I don't even know how you ingest Coke. See, that's how much I know about drugs. I don't know how, but he did it twice to me. So somehow I ingested something that I'd never had before. But
you never know when drinks have been spiked.
Yeah, exactly. But part of that, that reputation, it's like the nice thing is I had a good reputation with my husband, so he trusted me on that reputation. And well, I had to do with the car thing because he came and got me, and we just left the car until he could come back later and and get it, or until whatever I had in my system had left.
I was doing some content drafting today, and April, the LinkedIn polls are going to be talking about mentoring. I do 2 LinkedIn polls each week, one on organizational leadership and one on personal leadership. And I was talking about finding mentors to follow, to ask to be mentored to you. And I was thinking of the things that cause people to not ask. You know, what can someone who could be a good mentor never get asked? Like the pretty girl who never gets asked to prom because everybody thinks she's already got a date, that kind of a thing. And so you don't ask the mentor because, oh, well, they're too high up at the company, they're too busy, they've got other things going on, they've got other commitments. Ask. If they say no, you're better off than you were, not worse off, because now you know, and you can move on to your second, third choice kind of thing. But one of the things that popped into my head, and I ended up putting it in the survey part of it, was would you choose as a mentor someone who had some leadership failures in their past, maybe a career adjustment, shall we call it? And the point being, we all make mistakes. And sometimes even Yoda says that failure is the best teacher. It is, or something like that, the way Yoda speaks. And so the whole idea behind it is that just because somebody's made mistakes, made bad decisions, had a career trajectory totally disrupted, does that mean they're no longer a good mentor? And I would argue that depending on a lot of the circumstances, they could be the best mentor you ever had.
I was going to say, I think I would choose. I mean, if they had 20 readjustments in 1 month, no. But if, proportionate, no, I would choose someone that had actually had a readjustment or whatever, because I think they have learned something.
Ideally. So again, back to the never too late to start making good decisions. And I encourage everybody to do that. And I know I do it myself. I mean, there's so many habits I've tried to develop and have not. And yet there's some of the things I love. I love to read. I've read, I don't know how many thousands and thousands of books, and I have several thousand more sitting right here to be read. but I am not as disciplined as I wish I were in reading every single day. On the other hand, I read constantly. I get notes, I get emails, I get, chats, I get, it feels like I'm always reading, and yet I have these books that I can't quite get through. So, even our best intentions don't necessarily instill the habits and the perception we want others to have of us. And that doesn't mean, again, that you feed that and say, oh yeah, I'm just a big dummy. Oh, you don't, the negative self-talk is just terrible for other reasons. But at the same time, you can start making better decisions, and you can start reading good materials, and you can start attending church on Sunday, or, whatever the thing is that you feel you need to do to improve. Make that decision and do your best to implement it, knowing full well you're probably going to fail. I'll say fail. I call them setbacks, but in normal parlance, people talk about it as a failure. It's never a failure till you give up. And so I have a long list of things in which I have not yet quite succeeded. Haven't failed.
Just still working on it.
Yeah, haven't quite succeeded yet. And so, again, how do people perceive you, though? If they only watched you make your mistakes, saying, oh, God, what a doofus, what a terrible, I would never hire that person to work for me. But other times people see the things you've accomplished and they go, I want that person on my team. I can see they have real potential or promise, or whatever the phrases you wish to use on that. So constantly make the good decisions. And I know self-promotion is supposed to stink, but sometimes self-promote and make sure that the reputation you begin to earn is one you deserve, and it's good.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I was thinking today, I went looking for, I was going to make it's a long story, but I was going to make a list of some resources to help people in video. And I got thinking of our friend, Miss Eileen Smith, and she had a video course available, and I went looking for it. I couldn't find it. And I thought, well, it's got to be out there somewhere. I mean, I should be able to look on Google and Miss Eileen Smith's YouTube course. And I think I found some links, and they were dead links. And I thought, why is this course so difficult to find? But the thing is, the fact that I could even remember the course at all was because she had done, as you said, the self-promotion so well. So I did actually find, again, they're dead links, but that's not the point. The point is she'd actually self-promoted in a really sweet way. She's very sweet about the way she promotes. She'd done it in a sweet way. Otherwise, I wouldn't have even remembered that she had a course. So it's just the way about her and the way Miss Eileen is, that I was able to remember that much. Now I ended up having to send her an email and say, "Hey, where's that course? I can't find it," but that's neither here nor there. But you had sent out a tweet about, it's like, I'm thinking of it as a checklist of tips. I wish I'd had the the tweet in front of me now.
You mean the chat we were just in, the social cafe chat?
Yep.
I said maintain quality in products and services.
Yes.
Pay attention to customers' wants and needs, and like first dates, stay out of politics and religion.
Yes.
Do good things and get people to say good things about you.
Oh, that's excellent as far as managing your reputation.
That was the question. I was just trying to answer the question.
I was thinking of that company at the very beginning. I talked about the company that's like number 120. If they even followed that, well, actually, if they'd followed all of those points, but I mean, even the last one, do good things and get people to say good things about you. Wow, I think they'd actually stay in business past this year, even doing that. I mean, those are simple instructions if you think about it.
Well, ideally they are. I have a meme I almost attached to that, but I didn't, because it takes time to look it up, and that's a fast-moving chat in the half hour that we have. But the meme says, "Let's make better mistakes tomorrow." And I like that approach as well. It's like if you continually are making better mistakes, you're still improving. So yeah, but I'm still screwing up. But you're making better mistakes. That's an improvement.
That makes sense. That does make sense. Now, as far as reputation management, do you think that that's something that people could manage themselves, or would you recommend actually hiring someone, or does it depend on the company? Like if when you were talking earlier, I couldn't help but think, because you said something and it was like the whole phrase "going postal." And was that the 80s where post office workers were just kind of overly stressed and they were losing it and then going into the post office and shooting people, and that became a phrase, "going postal," which is sad because it's not really about the.
And it wasn't, when you consider the number of post offices in the country, it really wasn't that common. Doesn't matter. It only takes a couple. That hits the news, makes a big splash. Everybody hears about it. And so we go, wow, what's wrong with those postal people? There's just something wrong with them. And, there could be 1,000 different reasons. I remember at the time when people were talking about, postmen being terrible people. And I said, you are aware that the post office is required to hire veterans in preference to anybody else. And you do realize that when you hire a lot of veterans, which is a commendable thing to do, there are many of them that have undiagnosed PTSD and some with diagnosed PTSD. I mean, that the service we ask when we ask people to sign away their life on behalf of their country, and then we just turn them loose, say, okay, you're done, go home now. That is not an easy transition, and I don't think we handle it well at all. Mm-hmm. And so I remember talking about that in the context of the postal people, because so many of them are veterans, and they do have scars and trauma that, just opinion here, as a society, I don't think we've dealt well with it.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense, and the stress that I don't know if I don't know how the U.S. Post Office is handled. My honest opinion is the quality isn't quite the same, but maybe that's part of, maybe they've restructured so it's not as stressful. I don't know. I can't comment.
I don't know. It's hard to talk about them without getting a bit political. And what did I just say? Stay out of politics and religion.
Politics, exactly. I mean, I'd like to think it's not stressful for the sake of the people working for the post office, for their sake, that they're not being overly stressed, and that might explain some things. But I don't know. Again, I'm not on the inside.
And they deal with the public as well. And the public, if they don't get their letter, which could be a check, it could be a gift, it could be something that is time sensitive, and they go into the post office and they start yelling at the first person in a blue uniform they see. And it's like, what does this person have to do with your package not being here. It's not like they're hiding it in the back and they won't share it with you. They don't have it. Okay, something broke within their system, but for crying out loud, you don't get abusive to people just for those kind of errors.
I mean, I don't know how to fix that. I mean, again, that's a whole nother topic, but I don't know how to fix. That's basically human ignorance as far as that's not just the post office. That's human ignorance as far as how do you explain to people that if there's a problem, you don't just yell at the first human or the first pet or the first machine that you cross paths with. That's not necessarily, in fact, it's more likely that it is not the human or the pet or the machine responsible for your problem. That's something we have to teach humans in general. And there's, I think, a higher population of people that don't get it than there is the population that do get it. I don't know how to solve that. Do you teach it in elementary school? I don't know.
That's a can of worms. I'm not sure I really want to open. But we all do need our release points. We do need to let off steam. I know there are people that, when they get upset, they've taught themselves to go exercise, go run, get on their bike, treadmill, whatever, and burn off that energy. And we're all kind of put together differently. That would be like the last thing that would make me feel better. I've tried that, and I hate it so much that I get irritated doing it. But that's me. I'm different. So how do I find ways to burn off my energy? And there have been some constructive ways I've done it, and writing is one of them. Just whatever's in my head, get it out, get it on paper or in your computer these days, but get it out, get it down. And that way you can go back later and look at it and say, well, you were kind of legitimate in being upset about this. Now, what can you do to go fix it without having blown it all up in the process? Other times you read it and go, that was the stupidest thing to make you angry in the world. What was your trigger point? How do you identify this trigger point so that the next time it happens, there will be a next time, you don't let the trigger take effect. And you say, I see what's going on here. I need to adjust my thinking and react differently to this situation.
I had something yesterday, and I can't remember what it was, but I had to go over to my husband's desk. And he's left-handed. I get that. I know he's left-handed. So I know when I go over there, the mouse is not going to be where my hand's going to. I am extremely right-handed. So it's like I can't use his mouse. It's like I'm upside down or something is the way I feel. But I know he's left-handed, so I'm looking for the mouse over where my left hand goes. But I got over there and everything just was backwards. It just felt backwards. It felt cluttered. It felt everything. And I had to fix something. And he told me, hey, it's real simple. I put the cable here. I put the cable there. And I'm like, I can't see. I don't see things unless I know where they are ahead of time. We just don't function the same way. So anyway, long story short, when I was down, I said, I have never, ever, ever felt the urge to throw something. That's not how I handle things. Because to me, that breaks something. It messes something up. You have to clean it up. Why would you want to break something? So that's never been my way of dealing with. I don't throw things. I said, I think yesterday was the first time I actually felt like throwing your computer. I didn't, because I'm not going to hurt a computer, but it was like, I think I finally get it why people throw things, because I had that slight little, this is what somebody would do if they're upset, but I didn't. I unplugged stuff and replugged it in and fixed whatever needed fixing over at his computer. But it was like, I think I finally get it. It's like I'm understanding what other people, why they process it differently. That's not how I process it, but I get it.
I understand what you're saying. I dislocated my right shoulder. And of course, the surgery and the arm strapped to your body and immobile and all that kind of. It's amazing what you learn to do with your left hand, no matter how right-handed you might have been. And what's funny is to this day, this was 3 years ago now, I don't know, a while back. And to this day, there are certain things I still do left-handed that I never did my entire life until that event. And doing things with my left hand just became, with certain tasks that you do. And I keep trying to tell myself that means I'm more ambidextrous, when in fact I'm just clumsy. It doesn't really matter which hand I use. I can drop things out of either hand. That's easy. But it's an interesting dynamic that your brain will rewire itself
Hmm.
to accommodate the physical situation you're confronted with. So
I had that with my eyes where I think I had a cataract in my right eye. So I used to close the right eye and just look through the left eye. I'll be watching TV and I'll realize that I'm closing, it's not, how people will scrunch up their face when they're closing one eye. I'll just close it naturally and just watch out of one eye. And I will find myself watching television with one eye. And it's like, Deb, stop doing that. Keep both eyes open. I have to tell myself to keep both eyes open because the right eye will just go closed. It's like, quit doing that. That is not normal. It's like I have to try to retrain.
it will mess up your depth perception. That's for sure.
Yes, it does. So now I can't help but do one-eyed things, and that's weird. I don't want to drive that way, so I'm trying to get myself to use both eyes again.
Do you remember the movie Clockwork Orange?
The what?
The movie Clockwork Orange, Stanley Kubrick movie.
I don't think I've ever.
And this guy was put into reconditioning, and so they basically taped his eyes open so that he had to watch the movies, the videos, the reconditioning programming. And when I think about those kind of things, I think about, you could always recondition yourself with
just tape it.
Stanley Kubrick approach to such things.
I have tape. I could do that. Just tape my eye open.
There's another great meme of Tom and Jerry, the cat and mouse cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a Monday meme. I've seen a lot of people use it on Twitter /X of Tom the cat doing the same thing. He's tired. He's trying to get coffee. And so he gets the tape and tapes his eyes open. And we joke about it.
Seen that.
You gotta function. So
Yep.
Do what you gotta do to function.
I think that's how I taught my eye to go closed, because I think I took like a patch and some cotton and actually pushed the eye closed. And then you do that long enough and you teach the muscles to, then it just became really easy, because I didn't think I could do that. I thought I have to scrunch up my, the whole wink thing. But then after a while, I just learned how to do it really easily. It's amazing what you can condition yourself to do. But I think
it has been a pleasure chatting with you. But according to our usual process of limiting our discussions so that our listeners don't get totally bored and leave, we're probably at that point. Just a quick side note, I picked up a piece of data from a newsletter that I subscribe to. They've done studies, and they've shown that in the virtual meeting arrangement, there's something magic about the 9 to 10 minute mark.
Mm-hmm.
That's when people get bored and tune out. And I pitched that to some of my my course development friends, because we do a lot of teaching and training, and we're always putting slide presentations together. And I said, this is something to think about, that you ought to have every 10 minutes of your slide coverage, have something splashy, have something, a sound effect or a special transition or something to get people's attention back into what you're doing. And I'm looking at one class that I'm getting ready to present. And I thought, I have my teaching points. I know what I'm going to teach through this class. What if I hit one of those every 10 minutes? Just, here's this one. I'm going to talk about it for 10 minutes. Here's the next one. And see if that doesn't have a better engagement process, because virtual teaching drives me crazy. And here I've gone over the time. My apologies. But yes, every 10 minutes.
That's a good point. I think I'm going to do, because I'm going to try to make sure they're 20-minute, cut all the excess in 20 minutes. But if you have something really like a splash and some music or something, or right at the halfway point, that's a good idea. So thank you, Tom. Excellent points. And thank you for joining us as we talked about reputation, whether that's reputation in marketing or reputation management. And please join us for our next time with Social Cafe Interactive. And we'll see you next time, same place. Thank you.